Hello, everyone. Welcome, everybody. It's so fantastic to see so many people here already and to see all of our fantastic panelists' faces here today. Welcome to the FemTech Industry Landscape 2021, Discovering New Horizons. Tonight, we are hosted by FemTech Analytics. They are a new spin-off of the Deep Knowledge Group's flagship subsidiary, Aging Analytics Agency. That's a little bit of a mouthful, so I will be avoiding saying that again tonight. I'm your moderator. My name is Anna Butterworth. I'm the founder of Ultraviolet Futures and Ultraviolet Agency. They are respectively the first trend forecasting agency and marketing agency dedicated to femtech, women's health, and marginalized health innovation. I've been in femtech since about 2015 when I first joined LV and subsequently grew them across around 60 territories. I don't know if you've seen, but LV actually raised an $80 million Series C round today. So you are all in the right place right now. Femtech is certainly the place to be. Since then, I've been working with companies big and small to educate and reach new consumers around the globe within femtech and lots of areas of interesting marginalized and women's health. What I'm most excited about at the moment, and one of the reasons actually that we launched Ultraviolet Futures, femtech is really maturing as an industry, and I think it's really important that we start using forecasting methodology and all the tools in our toolkit to help femtech as an industry grow in the right way. I think it's really important to start identifying the future consumer needs, helping brands and businesses to innovate in the right sorts of ways. We've all seen what happens when innovation happens for innovation's sake. And I think one of the reasons that we've got such a fantastic panel here together today is so that we can make sure that we are learning and educating ourselves and innovating in the right ways. And I think you'll see a lot of that happening this evening. One of the things that excites me most about femtech, and I think you'll probably come away, if you're not already feeling this way today, you'll certainly come away later feeling this way, is that innovation is really baked into its foundations, into its core. The very nature of femtech is designed to overcome the status quo, to upend traditional care pathways and services. It's all about creating new solutions to very old problems a lot of the time. So there's no area of femtech, in my view, that is ever boring or stagnant. And I think we're all going to come away so pumped after this evening. So tonight we have an exceptional lineup for you. We have some fantastic founders, industry leaders, investors, and medics, all sharing how they see the femtech industry today. And of course, I'm a future forecaster now. I will be probing them on what's to come as well. We have two primary areas that we'll be looking at, which is patient-centered design and synchronicity in innovation and healthcare. So how it's going to work tonight is we've got 5 speakers, each on 10 minutes, and I will be timing you all and keeping you tight to 10 minutes, I promise. After those 5 speakers, we'll have around half an hour to do a Q&A session. So please do use the chat function and the Q&A function here. If you've got any questions for our speakers, please make sure that you're very clear about who you're addressing, if it's for a particular speaker. What we'll do then is we'll pick a couple of those questions, unfortunately, because we only have half an hour for the Q&A. We won't be able to get through all of them, but please do put them in. And plus, I've got a couple of questions myself as well. Then we'll do the same again. We'll have another 5 speakers and another Q&A. So you'll be with us tonight for around 3 hours, but honestly, it's going to fly by. I've already had a look into some of these themes, and really, it's going to be fantastic. And I think you're all going to be very excited about what's to come. So I'd like to introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is Kate Batts. She's the Director of FemTech Analytics, and she'll be talking to us around the FemTech industry landscape overview. So Kate, I shall hand over to you.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the introduction, Anna. I'm a managing partner of Deep Knowledge Group and a director of FemTech Analytics, who is the organizer of today's conference. And we thank everyone for joining, including our moderators, speakers, and the audience. I will start a little bit with our background story. Deep Knowledge Group was founded in 2013, and it has 3 main branches. We started with investment funds such as Deep Knowledge Ventures, and subsequently, we also added a number of analytical subsidiaries, including our recent addition of FemTech Analytics. We also have a number of nonprofit collaborations that we've established throughout the years. Our initial objective, which remains to be one to this day, was human longevity, defined as health span or living healthier for longer during currently known human lifespan. And of course, women's health is part, of this definition. However, we never had an analytical subsidiary solely devoted to this topic. But this has changed earlier this year, and we are planning to produce a number of open access analytical reports on the topic of FemTech. As a way of example, if we focus on our longevity analytics, in the past 6-7 years, we've produced a number of open access analytical reports on various topics of longevity, be it a regional overview or certain aspects of it, such as biomarkers, microbiome, etc. So FemTech Analytics was started earlier this year, as I've mentioned. And a few weeks ago, we produced our inaugural open access analytical report, which aims to offer the landscape overview of FemTech space. Our reports, similarly to our longevity reports, is accompanied by open access interactive mind map, as well as a matching IT platform, which enables you, to play with the data, be it companies, investors, R&D centers, and the like. So for us, FemTech is software, products, services, and diagnostics that use technology to improve women's health. 50% of the FemTech market traditionally has been focused on pregnancy, nursing, and reproductive health sectors. However, there are also other emerging FemTech sectors, such as longevity, healthcare, diagnosis, personal care and well-being, beauty, and farm tech. In terms of the issues of female health and how they're being tackled with, we are seeing platforms such as apps and telehealth, as well as deep tech such as AI, machine learning, and big data, as well as devices such as wearables, sensors, and remote monitoring. Femtech industry can be viewed as a continuum process of pre-care, during care, and post-care. I would also like to mention that because it is our first report by FemTech Analytics, we welcome the feedback from all of the speakers as well as the audience, because we would like to bring attention to the topic of FemTech, which we believe was underrepresented previously. So please, feel free to reach out. I would like to incorporate your suggestions. So this slide essentially highlights the key sectors, the way we see FemTech industry. Of course, I've mentioned pregnancy and nursing, as well as reproductive health. However, let's not forget about longevity, because women age differently than men. They live longer lifespan-wise, but health span-wise, this is not the case. Of course, there's also healthcare aspect, because certain diseases are attributed to women only. There's also, of course, personal care and well-being, be it mental health or sexual well-being. Of course, there's also farm tech, because until recently, the vast majority of clinical trials were focused on men. And then there's also an interesting topic of beauty for femtech. There's an emerging trend of using AI in that sector. So in the report, we aim to classify companies by different angles, be it sector, product type, stage, or customer. The interactive mind map and the platform that I mentioned actually profiled over 1,500 companies, about 1,000 investors, split over sectors and other different parameters. And this is an example of how the mind map looks, and it's interactive, and you can play depending on the sector that you're interested in. If we talk about the FemTech market size, it has been, growing since, let's say, 2012. But let's say if in 2020 it was about, 21.7 billion, it is projected to grow to 60.1 billion by 2027. However, we believe that this is still not enough, and that this sector should be emerging faster. If we talk about the regional distribution of funding, North America leads, and it's actually a very distinctive leader, followed not so closely by Europe, Asia, and Australia. In terms of general investment landscape overview, we would see the trend of growing investment since 2012. However, as of now, it's only 4% of tech investment in life sciences that goes to FemTech sector. And one of the perceived reasons, or as to why is this the case, is that there is not enough, exits. If anything, in the past, in 2019, there were only 5 FemTech exits. In terms of sectors that are considered to be the most popular, we do have reproductive health, followed by healthcare, longevity, pregnancy and nursing. And then there are emerging trends of beautiful FemTech, diagnostics, personal care and well-being, and farm tech. In terms of where our investors based, again, we have United States, a very distinct leader, followed by UK, India, Australia, and Israel. Product-wise, we see that services is definitely the largest category here, and it accounts for about 34% of the entire FemTech market. And it's interesting that the vast majority of FemTech companies, namely 91%, they actually just supply one product. And the product can be device and service, app and device, FemCare product, or farm product. So there are also a few other trends that we've highlighted. Number one is that the vast majority of decision makers in the FemTech industry are men, and they're not. They're only 17% of startups have at least one female founder. And in terms of funding, M&A is the most common avenue here, and because of insufficient funding, actually there are quite a few funds that are focused solely on funding FemTech companies. And this slide actually highlights such investors here, being led by Portfolio, Avestria, Steel Sky, Astarta, and a number of others. There are not that many publicly traded FemTech companies, as I mentioned. It's only 3%, and most of them are in North America, followed by Europe, Asia, and Australia. Progeny, Vitrolife are the top amongst the top 10 publicly traded companies, followed by a number of others, as shown on this slide. In terms of using AI, because our group has always been a big believer in that space as it applies to longevity or otherwise. So it so happens that it's only 6% of FemTech companies total that use AI. And in terms of subsectors, these are reproductive health, healthcare, beautiful FemTech, and pregnancy and nursing. R&D centers, of course, play a very important role. Again, North America is a leader, closely followed by Europe and Asia. For us, the topic of longevity is something that we hold very near and dear, and we're glad to see that there's a number of companies emerging in that space. We don't have much time during my presentation, but I encourage everyone to take a look at this subsector during, in the report itself. So this slide actually represents the types of funding. 1 million to 10 million is the most, common funding size for longevity companies. And in terms of key market trends, we have here personalization. Then also endometriosis is a a very important trend because 1 in 10 women is being affected. Also, we have the emergent trend of in-home testing. Also, menopause, given the global demographics, becomes one of the key objectives as well. Fertility remains one of the key focuses also, followed by AI for FemTech, tracking apps, and wearable devices. I see that Anna is back on screen, which is a sign that I need to round up. So I will just say that we encourage everyone to review our report and provide feedback. Again, it's open access. We are going to continue producing the reports. We'll probably have a second edition. There is also an investment digest that will be forthcoming soon, as well as a book focused on women longevity that will be published by our team later this year. So with that, I would like to conclude my presentation and thank you, everyone. I look forward to the Q&A session.
Thank you so much, Kate. Sorry to have to cut you off and crack the whip just then. Next up, we have Dr. Ilan Ziv. He is the CEO and Medical Director of Contipi Medical. They are the creators of the TP device, or Poise, which is a solution for stress incontinence, and they have prolapse solutions as well, so supporting women with pelvic floor disorders the world over. He currently holds 19 patents and over 100 patent applications, so beat that. And he'll be speaking to us about the new era in management for pelvic floor dysfunctions in women. Welcome, Ilan.
So thanks very much for hosting me. Good evening, good morning, everybody. My name is Ilan Ziv, and I am a urogynecologist from Israel. I'm also CEO of Contipi Medical, which I'll discuss a little bit later. The topic of the meeting today is the upcoming new era in the management of pelvic floor dysfunction in women, the shift of control into the hands of women. Before we start, let's talk about pelvic floor dysfunction, what it is. This is a set of disorders related to the woman's pelvic floor, the various organs in the pelvis, and the pelvic support system. We've got 6 different dysfunctions, but 3 of them are very well known. The one is urinary incontinence, the second is pelvic organ prolapse, and the third is fecal incontinence. PFDs altogether affect about 50%, or even over 50% of the women worldwide, with huge clinical and financial burden on patients and on medical system. And I'm talking about an annual expenditure of over $100 billion per year. There's also an alarming point here, which is the lack of innovation in the pelvic floor arena. On the left side, you can see the way it works in the stress urinary incontinence arena. The last surgical innovations was in 1996. Most of the non-surgical innovations came into the market in the 1980s. And the last one to appear in the market was ours, the impressive device, which we sold to Kimberly-Clark, which came into the market by 2015. There's some more devices getting into the market lately. When we talk about pelvic organ prolapse, this is a completely different situation. The last surgical innovation was in 2002, but these are the meshes. And as some of you may know, the meshes are not allowed to be used at all in most countries around the world. When we talk about the last non-surgical innovation, that happens in 1996. And then I'm referring to pessaries. I'll share what pessaries are in a minute, just ahead of time. Pessaries are inserts that are inserted into the vagina that may be made of plastic, PVCs, silicones, and others. So in 1996, the solid ring pessary, which I can even show the screen, it looks like that, and I can just show you a way. If you try and squeeze that, it requires about 5 kilos to do that. So that solid ring pessary transformed into a foldable ring pessary. It's something that looks like that. You may fold it when you insert it, but you cannot fold it when you take it out. I'll explain in a minute. In other words, for the last 25 years, there's been no innovations in this arena. Just back one point about the urinary incontinence device. We developed the Impressa device, which was later acquired by Kimberly-Clark. It's already on shelves. And following the closure of the the deal with Kimberly, we moved forward to develop our other devices. And the one that I want to show you today is the Provade device, which is for the non-surgical management of pelvic organ prolapse, or POP, in women. Just so that we're all on the same page again, this is a quality of life problem, affecting about 50% of the women above the age of 30, expected to rise about 1% annually. Currently, in the United States, we talk about 57 million women with some form of POP. Only about 3.5 million of them approach the doctors and come with a question of what do I do with this, how do I deal with this, how important this is. Just so that we all, again, see what it is, this is an example of a normal feminine pelvis. In the front here, you can see the bladder, you can see the vagina behind the bladder, and the uterus overriding the bladder, and then comes the bowel. In the case of quite severe prolapse, you can see the uterus, which is already outside the body, dragging with it the bladder here in front and the bowel in the back. Obviously, this is a quality of life problem. As for possible treatments of prolapse, we can obviously talk about surgery. Everybody knows the word surgery here, but we may expect about 30% recurrence rate or failure when we use native tissues, and the meshes are not allowed to be used anymore. So the rate of surgery goes down. We always say less than 20, but to be right in percent, we talk about 8% or 10%. So 90 or 80% of the women around the world do not need any surgical procedure, but they're looking for non-surgical procedure. And what we have in the market today are the pessaries. I mentioned earlier that pessaries are inserts that are inserted into the vagina. They're made of silicone or plastic. Some of them are very hard, some of them are really intimidating and very large. This is an example of 9 different pessaries, 9 different shapes. We've got about 120 of them. The most widely used, in about 80% of the cases, is the ring pessary. So when we started working on a new device here, we started to take the ring pessary, try and take its upside, which is an excellent work in elevating the prolapsed organ, and take away all the downsides. So what we have today, this is what we call the ring pessary endless cycle. When a woman finds herself with a prolapse, she comes to the doctor. The gynecologist inserts a reusable only device, because all pessaries today are reusable only. The way it is done is, if you can see the screen now, the device is squeezed and inserted into the vagina, which goes together with discomfort and sometimes even pain. Then the device remains in the vagina for 3 months. She comes back to the doctor now takes the device out. However, since now there's no ability to insert a forehand and just squeeze the device to take it out, the device is actually pulled out in the same dimensions. And you can see the dimensions of the pessaries are somewhere between 60 to 110 millimeters, which is 2.5 to 4.5 inches. This obviously goes together with discomfort and pain. Then the device is cleaned by the doctor and reinserted for another 3 months. And this goes on and on and on for years. And I can tell you that I have patients who come to me for 20 years, every 3 months, to take care of the device. Altogether, what we have here is a device which works well in alleviating the prolapse, but goes together with much discomfort, sometimes pain, being a reusable only device, very long usage periods, which go together with a high rate of adverse events, dependency upon the endless clinic visits, nobody likes it. And there's one more thing, and that's sexual life. Because in most cases, the devices just block the vagina, and women with pessaries, if this is a pessary that she cannot remove by herself, and this is exactly that with the ring pessary, so intercourse is impossible or hampered. So we decided to move into developing a device like this in a different way. Certainly not the devices that we can see on the right side of the screen, which are large and intimidating and intrusive, but this is our Provade device. As you can see, it very much resembles the menstrual tampon in the shape. It's only 24 millimeters in diameter. Now, I wanted to bring a video animation to show this device, but since it's very hard to go over the internet, so I just brought some snapshots. The device comes ready for use within the applicator, which you can see in purple, and it comes sealed within a wrapper. You take it out of the wrapper, the same way you take a menstrual tampon, and you insert it into the vagina, that way. And once it is inserted, you press the plunger, just the same way you press the plunger in a menstrual tampon. That deploys the device, which has been, as you could have seen earlier, very slender. Over here, it deploys the device to become a full-size ring, and then the device and the applicator separate, and the applicator comes out, leaving inside the deployed device, which is a ring, and the string for further removal of the device. And the applicator is taken out. Now, the device may remain there for up to 7 days or until the woman wants otherwise. She just pulls the string, the device shrinks back into tiny dimensions, which mean 24 millimeters, and then slides out of the vagina for disposal. This is certainly a disruptive innovation, which is so much different from what we have in the market today. By that, we empower women. Women are given the ability to take control over their medical problem. And as you can see, we emphasize the word medical problem because this is a real medical problem, not that she's sick, but she has a condition. By saying the word empower, it might be physical. Obviously, we dramatically reduce or even alleviate the discomfort and pain. We reduce the need to self-touch, the disgust, and the reduced body image. We reduced complications associated with available reusable facilities such as erosions and infections, and we allow for normal conduct of life without the dependency on the clinic. This is the last slide, which is most important. Actually, we bring with this device and all our other devices 2 huge social messages. The one is the shift of control. Control of POP moves into the hands of the woman rather than the hands of the doctor. And the second, which is even more important, is freedom to decide. The user decides when, where, and if to use the device. She may decide, for instance, not to use the device during the weekends or on Tuesday. The user may decide when to remove the device. And one important point for us is what we call the emergent or urgent removal, let's say for intercourse. In other words, the wish for POP alleviation is no longer a barrier to sexual activity. And this is where I say thank you very much for listening, Jess. And I'll answer the question at the end. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ilan. That was fascinating. And as a former LV alumna, I'm always fascinated by pelvic floor disorders. So I'm looking forward to talking to you about that later. Next up, we have Astrid Gillenkrok Christensen. She is the co-founder of Leia. Leia launched this year. It's a digital guide to help women feel safe, healthy, and informed during their 4th trimester, so just postpartum. And you can't tell, but I'm actually 8.5 months pregnant. So this is going to be really helpful for me. So I really look forward to seeing what you've got to say, Astrid. Welcome.
Congratulations, Anna. I hope what I say won't scare you. Cool. So my name's Astrid Gillenkrok Christensen, and I'm joining you from Sweden today. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Leia, and we're a startup with a mission to redefine postpartum health for women worldwide. And I'm very excited to be here. Also very excited to hear the innovations talked about by Dr. Liv. Pelvic floor disorders is something that a lot of women that we talk to are struggling with. So very happy to hear that we're looking into innovations. So I'm here today to tell you a little bit about Jane. Jane is one of the lucky ones. But 9 out of 10 women giving birth will experience mental and physical difficulties the following year, such as incontinence, prolapse, stool leakage, and postnatal mood disorders, including anxiety and depression, affecting not only them, but their families as well. Suicide is now one of the leading causes of death in new mothers the year after giving birth. And the percentage of men being diagnosed with postpartum depression is on an all-time high. Female health is currently undergoing intense digital disruption. Postpartum care, however, has been left behind with devastating consequences. The last couple of years, we've seen a boom in digital innovation around reproductive health, focusing on fertility, pregnancy, and nursing, as we heard before. But as soon as you give birth, the information, the medical care, and the digital solutions all focus on the child. And as a mother, and also as a co-parent, you're often left to fend for yourself in what is often referred to as one of the most overwhelming and challenging times of your life. And I think everyone here that has children can contest to that. Barriers such as low access to experts, lack of personalized information, and the fact that this is a very stigmatized area means that millions of women are suffering in silence. And as a consequence, the proportions of newly delivered mothers who are being readmitted to hospital are also growing, increasing costs on both healthcare and society. The months following birth are a critical period, setting the stage for long-term health and well-being. To truly optimize recovery, postpartum care should be an ongoing process rather than a single encounter, with services and support tailored to each woman's individual needs. Leia consists of a team of professionals who have previously led and developed global tech and health tech platforms. But more importantly, we're mothers who have experienced the consequences following the lack of postpartum care. So who are we? Well, my background is in driving digital innovation, business and growth strategies in executive roles for international companies such as CNN, Viaplay, and MTG, as well as previously running a social impact startup. But creating person-centered digital solution has been a common thread throughout my career. Sandra, my co-founder and Leia's CPO, has a background in working with successful Swedish startups like Danads and Klarna. And as a previous product owner for Natural Cycles, she has extensive experience in breaking new ground and scaling up services and products in new international markets. Together with our tech and medical advisory boards, consisting of experts and researchers in all areas covering postpartum, we want to build a product to help not only us, but the 140 million women giving birth each year. So our mission is to redefine postpartum health by offering AI-powered support for both mother and partner. So Leia works as a digital complement to existing healthcare by taking a much more data-driven, prevention-focused, and person-centered approach. We offer personalized and actionable insights to optimize women's post-pregnancy recovery. Based on the data we collect from the users, we'll be able to serve content and rehabilitation exercises from a broad range of experts based on their individual needs. And by creating a community of both experts and other parents, we'll lower the barriers for participation and drive dialogue. Because only by sharing our thoughts, our concerns, and our fears, we'll begin to break down the stigma surrounding the fourth trimester. Because yes, there are 4. And to drive real system change, we believe it's important to create value to all stakeholders. And we'll do this by digitalizing medically validated screening models to enable earlier self-detection of postnatal complications, leading to earlier treatment. And by tracking women's recovery and allowing them to share their data with their midwife and their caregiver, will enable a more personalized care. And lastly, by collaborating with key research partners globally across all areas postpartum, we'll be able to apply machine learning and our key algorithm to identify key factors to optimize postpartum health in the future. So let's go back to Jane. Lucky Jane. She thrived in her 4th trimester, but her sister, her friends, and our colleagues might not be as lucky as her. Ahead of this event, me and my co-founder, Sandra, looked back at some of the user research we did early on with Leia. And we were both astounded to understand and to hear how neglected the mothers felt in their overall process. So the journey for them as new mothers was designed for an existing process, an existing healthcare system. And that's why we're obsessed with their perspective when designing our product and service, because it begins and it ends with their experience. And we strongly believe that if this is done right, it can actually help and improve the information, the insights, and indeed the existing process for the doctors and midwives working in maternity care. Because collaboration is key. And together, we can redefine postpartum health and give all new mothers the support they so rightly deserve. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Astrid. That's fantastic. I can't wait to give it a whirl. Right, next up we have Kylie Zager. Kylie is the COO of Aspira Women's Health. She's been a healthcare executive for over 20 years for Fortune 500 companies before joining Aspira just this year as COO. She's speaking with us today about changing the story through transformation, a new paradigm in the early detection of ovarian cancer. Welcome, Kylie.
Hi, Anna. So I am more than thrilled to be here today with you, and thank you so much for including us in this. I too am going to start with a story of a patient and why early detection of ovarian cancer is so incredibly important in the FemTech movement and in the healthcare systems in general. This remains an unacceptably deadly disease and has had very little progression over the last 40 years. There is a story, and she's actually my mother, of a woman at 38 years old who presented with all of the signs and symptoms of ovarian cancer, which ironically present outside of the gynecology type symptoms: frequent urination, bloating, lower back pain. So women with ovarian cancer signs and symptoms tend to spend anywhere from 18 to 24 months bouncing from anywhere from 6 to 8 different specialties with very vague signs and symptoms that are not debilitating. So in that process, the disease is progressing and the misdiagnoses continue to happen. The majority of women who end up with ovarian cancer are diagnosed at late stage. And if you're diagnosed at stage 4 in this disease, your chance of 5-year survival is 17%. So early detection of this disease, and I would argue more than any other disease, is absolutely paramount. And unfortunately, the standards of care that we have in early detection of ovarian cancer currently are suboptimal and definitely suboptimal for certain ethnicities, which we'll talk about today. So the mission of Aspira Women's Health is to change the paradigm of all gynecological disease, beginning with ovarian cancer and then tackling the most difficult gynecological diseases from there. So the next that we're under research and development with right now is endometriosis, and we're going to continue to go after the most difficult gynecological diseases from there. So very excited to be here today and to talk about the importance of awareness around ovarian cancer and the work that Aspira Women's Health is doing to get in front of this disease and change the story. So we're missing something. Almost 2 million new cancer cases are diagnosed every year in the United States. Over 600,000 people will lose their lives, and that's over 1,500 every single day. 38 women die from ovarian cancer every day. There's 21,000 new cases, 13,000 plus deaths, and the 5-year survival rate remains the most horrific and grave amongst the gynecological cancers. So ovarian cancer, it remains one of the most deadly cancers and very much for women. So it's the 4th leading cause of death amongst women, and again, remains unacceptably high. If you look at the survival rate of the diseases, the cancer diseases that have been very fortunate to have the research and development dollars invested, breast and prostate have moved very high onto the curve of survival rates, and ovarian still suffers with the 40-year paradigm. So what is wrong, and how are we not looking at this in a way that might really change the story for early detection? As we talked about in the beginning of the presentation, the signs and symptoms of ovarian cancer present outside of the gynecologist's office. This begs the question of a bit of a transformation in the healthcare systems in totality, that this horizontal view of the woman, the holistic view of the woman, and ensuring that the non-oncologic providers are aware of the family history, the genetic predisposition, the risk of ovarian cancer, the signs and symptoms, is something that we take very seriously in our education and commercial pathways, to educating these physicians to understand frequent urination may be a sign and symptom of ovarian cancer, dependent on the family history and the genetic predisposition of the woman, and that looking holistically at these various parts is enabling us to be able to construct this very complex puzzle of ovarian cancer. Right now, we have a vertical healthcare system. Specialists are trained in what they are trained to identify and what they're trained to treat. And ovarian cancer is one of those diseases that really does present outside of a lot of the true gynecological issues. So we're working very much to ensure that education amongst these other physicians is first and foremost in our pathway. Late stage diagnosis. So 15,000 each year is the leading cause of this gynecological death. And as I mentioned, that's the fourth cause of all cancer deaths. So unacceptably high, and no change to this in over 40 years. And the rationale for ovarian cancer early detection is that if we're able to detect these cancers in stage 1 and stage 2, you can see the survival rates are incredibly powerful versus that of stage 3 and stage 4. So our mission is to be able to change the story by getting in front of this disease, giving women a chance of the 90% or 70% survival rate, and really mitigating late stage diagnosis of this disease. So how are we looking to do that? So we understand that educating women on the signs and symptoms is critically important, and a direct to consumer component of our business model is definitely first and foremost. The providers are critical. So this is no longer about educating the gynecologist, the OBGYN, the GYN oncologist. We understand that because of the signs and symptoms and the importance of genetics and ovarian cancer, that looking at the providers and its totality is also a critical part of our commercialization and our go-to-market. Payers. We still understand that we're struggling with preventative mechanisms, and I'm sure many of the panelists today will speak about this. We're still struggling with prevention being covered by insurance carriers. And in fact, we have a very difficult time with some patients saying, if it's not covered, then I don't know that I can afford to do the test. So we're actively working with the government, we're actively working with our consultants to ensure proper education of payers is part of our paradigm. The health system. So recently we've deployed our health system strategy and ensure the importance of holistically looking at ovarian cancer and the management of those patients all the way back, taking a look at their history, taking a look at their genetic composition, and then how they present in signs and symptoms. We understand the importance of doing that within the health systems and ensuring that they're aligned as partners as we look to tackle this disease. Industry. We are one of the only companies globally that has focused on ovarian cancer and early detection, and is working to radically improve the current paradigm that is the standard of care, which has really led us to the place of most women being diagnosed with stage 3 and stage 4 ovarian cancer. And then society. So we look at how African American women present with this disease. It's very different than Caucasian women. We look at how African American women are detected with ovarian cancer. Their signs and symptoms present differently. The current standard of care does not pick up ovarian cancer in women of ethnicities like it does the Caucasian women. So ensuring that this call to action societally is present and paramount in our commercialization strategy is also a very important pillar for us. So the problem statement. So how are we thinking about reduction of risk? The biggest problem statement that we have is that women don't know their history. It's not first and foremost in their mind, and they don't understand the connection between breast and ovarian cancer, between certain genetic predispositions that are linked to this might mean I'm going to have breast cancer, to the fact that that's also putting them at risk for ovarian cancer. So again, it's very important to us as we continue to move into the commercialized space, that the education of this disease and the awareness components across all 6 of those verticals is first and foremost. As I mentioned, the current standard of care is inadequate. So currently we have physical exam and transvaginal ultrasound. Then we're also using, it is off-label, the CA-125 to understand whether or not ovarian cancer might be present inside of the women. And then biopsy is not medically appropriate for ovarian cancer. So still very limited in what we can do from an early detection perspective. So Aspire Women's Health has been actively working for the last 5 years. We have one product that is absolutely disruptive for adnexal masses and understanding, is that mass something that the GYN oncologist needs to handle because the woman is at risk of ovarian cancer, and ensuring that she ends up in the hands of the right woman. We also have a proprietary genetics panel that is targeted for gynecological disease that allows providers to get in front of this disease and understand, are we at risk and how do we move as quickly as possible? And then we're more than excited and coming up on a very disruptive product launch this October that is going to solve for all adnexal masses. So we have something now that will solve for even the benign masses, and helping the providers and the health systems understand, do I have a possible risk here of ovarian cancer? And if I decide to wait on an adnexal mass, when do I need to start to think about this in a different fashion? So actively working on getting to this early detection screening mechanism, but very excited about the products that we do have in the market currently. So the power of now and the power of the future. So we fundamentally believe at Aspire Women's Health in the power of genetics and ensuring that you understand the power of the future. So even if that adnexal mass is benign now, it doesn't mean we're not at risk for ovarian cancer in the future. And the coupling of this solution and ensuring that we're providing the provider, the payers, the patient with all of that knowledge to know, are we at risk for this horrific disease, and how do we want to get in front of it so we don't end up in late stage diagnosis, is first and foremost to what we're trying to accomplish here with our solution set of products. We believe we will change the story in this, and we're working hard to ensure that all 6 of those pillars are actively educated on the horrific nature of this disease and the importance of early detection and the combination of family history, genetics, and then the solution for any of those signs and symptoms that start to pop up. One of the most proud moments that I've had in the last 6 months is our construction of our patient advisory board and putting a chief spokeswoman in place who is a PhD and also an ovarian cancer patient. So at Aspire Women's Health, the voice of the patient and the voice of the physician are first and foremost in how we develop our products and how we think about tackling this disease and ensuring we stay on a track to get in front of early detection of the disease. So thank you so much for letting me share some of what we're doing and the hard work we're putting into this disease. It's more than an honor to be here, and I look forward to question and answer.
Thank you so much, Kylie. That was fantastic. And we've heard some really interesting innovations today from people who are creating some truly unique solution-driven products that are directly putting the patient at the center of design. And that's all about what this section is focused on. So Barbara is the CEO of My Menopause RX. She's a gynecologist and women's healthcare specialist and creator of the online doctor's office for menopause care. She's speaking with us today about why menopause matters, providing evidence-based care while decreasing healthcare costs. Welcome, Barbara.
Why, thank you so much. So today I'm going to present why menopause matters, providing evidence-based care while decreasing healthcare costs. As Anna mentioned, I'm a gynecologist and a certified menopause practitioner. In addition, I am the founder and CEO of My Menopause RX. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited to share my thoughts on menopause and why it matters for midlife women. So in today's presentation, I'm going to discuss menopause and the cost of untreated symptoms, compare the in-office menopause visit to a virtual menopause visit, and present our value-based solution for menopause treatment. The healthcare market for virtual care is white hot, especially in the United States, where I'm from. And I'm excited that it finally deserves and is getting the attention that's needed for menopause treatment. Until recently, changes in the healthcare delivery landscape have moved at a snail's pace. But fortunately for the FemTech industry and midlife women, the recent pandemic has quickly opened the mindsets of patients, healthcare providers, and lawmakers to accept alternative models for the delivery of healthcare. So why does menopause matter? Well, menopause is a quiet healthcare crisis. Untreated menopause symptoms are expensive for women, patients, healthcare systems, insurers, and employers. And many midlife women live in healthcare deserts without any access to specialty care. All women transition to menopause either naturally or surgically, and worldwide, by the year 2025, there will be 1.1 billion postmenopausal women. But in addition, menopause increases a woman's risk for chronic disease, cardiovascular disease, high cholesterol, diabetes, osteoporosis, anxiety, depression, and sexual dysfunction. And chronic disease drives up the long-term cost of healthcare. Menopause symptoms often go unrecognized. This is due to primary care providers and OBGYNs in the United States lack formal menopause education. Hormonal changes and menopause symptoms can begin in a woman's 40s and often go unrecognized. And women at midlife, because of this, are missing prime healthcare opportunities to decrease associated chronic illnesses and have the opportunity to improve their wellness. Many midlife women are at the peak of their careers. Women notoriously put work and family above their own health and need convenient, affordable solutions and access to menopause specialists. Menopause symptoms masquerade as other medical conditions that is confusing for both patients and the untrained clinician. So I'm not going to go through all the symptoms because there are so many, but I invite you to go to our menopause quiz at mymenopauseScore.com. So untreated menopause symptoms are expensive, and that's why we're talking about healthcare delivery. In fact, $1,336 per woman per year is the cost of additional healthcare expenses for untreated symptoms. And it's not just expensive for healthcare providers and health systems, it's expensive for employers. $770 per woman per year is lost in economic costs due to menopause. And so while these numbers alone are powerful, it does not take into account the additional unrealized costs of the chronic health conditions associated with menopause that I pointed out earlier. So why talk about value-based menopause care? We've discussed how untreated symptoms are expensive and go unrecognized, but now we need to discuss how we rein in those costs but yet maintain quality. Traditional office visits are expensive, inconvenient, and lack price consistency. In the United States, every healthcare provider and healthcare system in the US has a private pre-negotiated reimbursement rate that are usually unknown to the patient prior to their visit. Utilizing telemedicine to treat menopause improves access to care, decreases overall costs, yet maintains quality. Menopause treatment does not need a physical exam. I can personally attest to that as a midlife woman and a menopause provider. Menopause requires listening and discussions with patients. Value-based menopause care must identify women early in the menopause transition, which is called the perimenopause, offering education, lifestyle interventions, and treatment when necessary. It must utilize telemedicine as a value proposition to divert care from unnecessary expensive in-office visits. And we must control ancillary costs by utilizing end-to-end integrated specialty care telemedicine platforms. Most of all, we must treat women holistically. The menopause transition not only impacts a woman's physical health, but also her mental health. Virtual care platforms cost less. In this example, we've taken the average Midwest reimbursement rate for a typical in-office visit is $180 to $249. At My Menopause RX, we have been able, using our integrated end-to-end platform for telemedicine, to reduce the final cost to just $99. That's a large savings on a per visit platform of $115 for patients, health systems, and insurance plans, all without sacrificing quality of care. Value-based menopause care does not equate to inferior care. By using here in the US, certified menopause practitioners from the North American Menopause Society who follow NAMS protocols that set the standard for menopause, we maintain quality. Menopause practitioners identify and understand the symptoms associated with the hormonal changes in women at midlife, and they avoid unnecessary expensive medical workups and lab testing. For menopause telemedicine to truly become mainstream, patients and clinicians need a satisfying care experience. Patients must enjoy the same level of menopause care, but yet without leaving their home or place of work. And patients in healthcare deserts must gain access to the menopause care that they were lacking. Patients must feel that their complaints have been addressed, and providers must feel that care modality easily enables them to holistically care for their patients. So how does telemedicine improve the impact and the clinical experience? Utilization of integrated health history intakes and system questionnaires afford women a non-confrontational method to express their most intimate midlife concerns. They serve to break the ice on what can be embarrassing conversations for many patients to initiate, especially sexual complaints. And they direct clinicians on to touch on the complaints that are pre-identified by patients as important, improving overall patient satisfaction. Using audio, video synchronous visits most closely replicate the in-person office visit, which most midlife women are comfortable with as a care model. The live interaction, where patients can ask real-time questions and be answered by menopause specialists, serves as a meaningful healthcare encounter. And the capabilities must be easily accessible on the patient dashboard without having to download additional cumbersome resources or apps. Midlife women are busy. Not every woman in the menopause demographic are tech savvy, so user-friendly solutions are an absolute. So this slide represents the care flow of an in-person visit versus a virtual visit. And there's a few points that I'd like to point out. The end result is the same. We come up with an evidence-based treatment plan, whether it's in-person or virtual. But virtual care eliminates the time wasted in the waiting room, average of 41 minutes, which is a long time for a woman. It eliminates ancillary medical staff and the additional costs associated with them, and it decreases the overhead by eliminating the cost of maintaining a physical location, yet we all in all provide the same health visit outcome. So in summary, identifying women in menopause and perimenopause and treating symptoms with evidence-based care decreases the overall healthcare cost. The integrated end-to-end telemedicine platform, such as the one we created at My Menopause RX, offers an inexpensive solution to the menopause healthcare crisis without sacrificing quality. Women are thirsty for menopause education and treatment. Helping them improve their quality of life with improved access to evidence-based care just makes sense in this day and age. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Barbara. That was fantastic. I've been frantically making notes to ask you in the Q&A. And please, everyone, do remember, if you have any questions for our panelists, do pop them into the Q&A or into the chat, and I'll post them to everyone. So as I mentioned in my opening remarks, these are old issues, right? people assigned female at birth have been having children, have been aging since time immemorial, and yet we're only now seeing really accessible and effective solutions. So first of all, I would like to thank you all for the work that you're putting in and for the research that you're doing. It makes me feel a lot better about being a woman at this stage, particularly someone who is going to be postpartum soon, you know, somebody who's going to be entering menopause, knowing that we've got so many fantastic innovators who are creating in this area is really, it's good to know. So I'm going to do a little shameless plug as well here. So I actually launched, along with my co-founder who's in the audience, Rhiannon, the Future of Cycle Care 2022. It's actually the first trend report in cycle care. And one of the things that we identified, one of the main themes we identified was that we anticipate next year there's going to be a much greater integration between clinical professionals and wellness devices and wellness brands. So I'm going to kick off our Q&A session. This is actually directed to Ilan, Astrid, and Barbara. You can all answer separately, of course. Do you anticipate opportunities for collaboration between the medical industry and wellness devices? Particularly, I'm thinking with your specific brands in mind. Can you see an opportunity for collaboration between consumer-facing products in the home that are accessible and those that are then available in the medical sphere? So Ilan, I'll put this to you first.
Okay. Well, the answer is yes to all. It's simple. But the point here is everybody wants to move medicine towards home, especially when we talk about women who are not sick. Actually, if they're not sick, there's no good reason for them to come to the clinic. So we're striving to bring devices that can be used at home by everybody, definitely even with old ages. When we developed the device, our engineers used to visit old age homes and trying to look at points that were very important for us. Let's say when you insert such a device like our Provade device, there is a certain move of the hand. Now, older women, in most cases, cannot do that form. So we looked at how do we change the device? How do we curve the device so that they will not have to move their forearm too much? Another point here, this is we have to press a plunger. Now we can have a plunger that you should need a machine in order to put in. This is too much. So we went and just developed a device that looks like that, but with a spring inside in order to measure the force, which older women, I'm talking about over 90, in most cases this will not be used by over 90s, women over 90s can produce. What is the amount of force they can use with one hand? And according to that, we developed a device. So the point is, yes, to try and move the devices or whatever we do to the homes of the women, to the comfort zone.
That's great to hear. Astrid, do you see an opportunity for collaboration? And can you give us some examples potentially of offering consumer-facing products that then collaborate with the medical industry? So I know you talked quite a bit about how you're going to move the patient through a series of really patient-centered design with your app. So can you talk to us a little bit about that and where you see the opportunities lie?
No, I mean, I'm a massive believer in collaboration, especially when it comes to driving real system change. And we're currently collaborating and co-building the product with both public and private healthcare providers to ensure that we enable a better care, like to the end person, not patient, the person. And I think that's crucial because you can't have all different, information and different rehabilitation exercise coming from different sources. It needs to be kind of best practice, and it needs to be in collaboration with like a 360 more holistic view. So we're currently doing a pilot with a private healthcare provider when it comes to utilizing a test group of women and offering them the functionalities of having someone giving them that holistic support in the postpartum, because currently there's no digitalization globally in postpartum when it comes to the actual healthcare provider. It's all physical, it's all or maybe one or maybe two, depending on what country you are, actually physical appointments. So, and what we can see is also that women are starting to ask for this, and they're starting to understand that this is such a crucial part of their recovery. And it's something that public healthcare, speaking for Sweden at this point, they're so kind of lagging behind in that kind of development. So we need to collaborate to build bridges until they can offer that purely holistic and person-centered solution. So I'm very happy to say that everyone in public healthcare that we've spoken to and in private have been super open to collaborating, because they see the very desperate need of this solution. And I think we need to find ways to collaborate with commercial partners or digital partners to really accelerate the digital transformation that is needed in this segment.
Absolutely. And I think as soon as we make those silos, we take the barriers out of the silos, and we see more collaboration and more conversation between those different devices and data centers, that's going to make a really huge change. And Barbara, I'd love to hear what you think as well about how we can support menopausal women by kind of breaking these barriers down between the medical industry and the services that are delivered in the home and from the commercial sector.
Well, I think collaboration is the key to improving healthcare. And so we have a lot of many different sectors that we need to bring together. We're talking about to help women, whether it's postpartum, whether it's women with incontinence, whether it's women with ovarian cancer. We need to build bridges between all sectors of healthcare with communication and collaboration. And we need to work as one so women are treated holistically, and so that providers in all healthcare sectors understand the maybe not every medical little tidbit, but have a broader knowledge to be able to identify problems and have those resources. And so collaboration creates resources, not just for women, but for providers to offer that. And so especially for menopause, as I mentioned in my talk, is not only physical changes in women, it's psychological changes. And so it crosses many, many roads with regards to physical health, mental health, and overall well-being. And I think it's very important, whether it's nutrition, whether it's drugs, whether it's counseling, whether it's kind of advertising and marketing so that we get the word out there that menopause is not taboo. Collaboration is absolutely needed.
Absolutely. And you mentioned as well how important it is to have rich data, and it's so important to have heterogeneous data points, particularly yes, with women's health. You know, a few people have mentioned just how different it is, how different women experience the same issues. And Kylie, you mentioned as well what you're doing to help women of color to better identify symptoms in ovarian cancer, and I'm sure in other gynecological issues. So can you tell us a little bit about how Aspera is working towards breaking down those outcomes, the outcome disparity for women of color and for white women?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I think I've worked for a lot of different companies, and I have rarely seen a chief executive officer come out and say, we absolutely want to ensure Medicaid coverage, and we are access for all, irrespective of patient or ability to pay. And I love that about this company, is the fundamental belief that nobody, regardless of socioeconomic status or ethnicity, everyone should have access to this care. But the driver of this was, if you looked at the 5-year survival rate for Black women, it's 36% versus 46% in Caucasian women. And then you look at the early diagnostics of this, and I just want to make sure I get all of these statistics totally right. It's absolutely horrific. The OVA1 has 18% higher rate of detection sensitivity for ovarian malignancy versus CA125 in Black women. So when we look at this and we look at, our responsibility to this social justice movement and ensuring that we change the paradigm, not only for the women like my mother and women in my family that, have had this disease and their life cut short. My mother passed away from this disease at 46 years old. But it doesn't have to be this way, right? It doesn't have to be this way for most of these women, and we have a better solution to doing this, but it's going to require this radical horizontal healthcare transformation, whether that's the way that the systems approach women, the way that women approach themselves, the way providers see themselves, and to all of these brilliant panelists' comments across collaboration amongst industry executives to ensure that we all understand how the woman connects together, so we can bring the right tools to the marketplace and really solve for this once and for all.
I'm so sorry to hear about your mum, Kylie. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
And I do think, a lot of us have talked about empowering the woman and empowering the patient, and seeing her really as a person first. Astrid, actually, you're absolutely right. It's the person, not the patient, right? So I'm really interested to hear as well about how we can use AI in terms of how we bring this industry forward, what the opportunities are. And I know that, Kate, you mentioned some of the opportunities in AI already, and I'd love to hear what you and FemTech Analytics think are going to be the really big opportunities coming up in the next 1 to 5 years time in FemTech with AI.
Great. Well, thank you, Anna. And we mentioned the collaboration, which I think is extremely important. So I'll add my comment to the previous discussion. And actually, the purpose of this event, which is free for all, as well as our open access analytical reports, is to actually continue creating the critical mass and bring the attention to this very important issue of women's health and certain angles how it should be handled. In terms of AI. So we've been big believers in AI for a number of years as it applies to longevity, so to speak, and we have reports on that subject. FemTech, which is a relatively new space for us, which we would like to explore further with the help of the community, actually appears to underutilize AI, unfortunately. So we see lots of promise in that, and I don't want to elaborate a lot in terms of trends in addition to what we've referenced in the report already. But I think we have excellent speakers here who are in this space, not on the analytics side, but actually working in it. So I would like to hear, their opinion on the key trends, and then I can add my 2 cents as well.
Absolutely. Astrid, as well, you mentioned how you're using AI. I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you're using it, and also where you think the opportunities might lie in the rest of the FemTech.
So now I'm a big believer in AI, and I think there are massive amount of opportunities because this has been such an under-researched area for such a long time. So I'm very happy to see that people are starting to apply machine learning to these data sets and really find these key findings that can actually create change. So the way that we're doing with collaborating with the research team, because currently when it comes to postpartum, there are a lot of researchers who are focusing on one particular factor, if it's postnatal depression or pelvic disorder. But there's been nothing when it comes to a global collaboration looking at all factors when it comes to a holistic postpartum recovery. So what's important is kind of finding the existing data sets and making sure that we label the data in all the correct ways to be able to actually apply machine learning, train the algorithm, and find these, the key historical findings as well of, just learn from history, because and it's also frustrating in the sense that some of the data sets exists, but very many doesn't, because it hasn't been prioritized, it hasn't been collected. So what we're doing also is when you, as a user, sign up to Leia, we always say that throughout Leia, we will always participate with research partners to really enable innovation and evolution when it comes to postpartum. So we're working on existing data sets, but we're also building our own data sets to be able to really localize and identify those key factors.
That's so interesting, and it really comes back to a stat that Kate shared right at the beginning, which is that so many of these femtech businesses and femtech brands are developing just one product. And so we're showing that even though this is an area that's so innovative and there's so much investment that's going into it now as well, people are still just treating disorders one at a time and actually not looking at the healthcare as a whole and the holistic well-being of the woman throughout her whole life. And I do think that's certainly an opportunity that we can see going forward. And I'd like to actually...
Also, oh, sorry, Anna.
No, go ahead.
No, and I think it's so important also to what I find really exciting with building our own data sets as well, because we're tracking the women's both mental and physical recovery. And that enables us also to have the really, the personalized point of view. So the existing data sets are very much, symptoms versus outcome. But currently, we're now being able to tracking, what are the synergies with your mental state combined with your physical state and your relationship with your partner and the social and the economic state and all these different factors that we haven't been able to, to look at before. So it's really just the challenge is just kind of picking the right data to label to have an understanding of what affects, what data affects our data. But that's a challenge I'm very much looking forward to, and I'm happy to collaborate on. So that's why it's so important for collaboration.
Absolutely. And I will just add that according to our analysis, it's only 6% of femtech companies that, successfully utilize AI in their activities. So, and obviously it's a huge untapped opportunity. And amongst the sectors that do utilize AI, it is the reproductive health, general healthcare, and pregnancy and nursing that lead this trend. But obviously, we need to encompass more and ensure that more than 6% of total femtech uses AI.
Could I just make a quick comment about that as well, Anna and Kate? Because Astrid, I think you're absolutely brilliant the way you're thinking about this. But when we think about even our algorithm, it's so important. We do the same thing, right? Nutrition, menopausal status, this is all part of the personalized approach to early detection. That's run inside of our algorithm, which, isn't part of what the traditional standard of care, was. But I think about the way our scientific team is thinking about the future, and it is all about these data lakes. And for us, artificial intelligence and the deep machine learning is critical because of the predictive analytics that we're going to get out of it, right? So I don't know, artificial intelligence has become such a buzzword, I feel like, in the industry. And to me, it's more adaptive intelligence, right? How are we going to get these algorithms, these detection tools, these medical devices, programmatic effects to think about things in an adaptive way and a personalized and precision medicine approach versus just the typical artificial intelligence approach, which I know is also very helpful, but to us and to me and the world, the way that I like to see early detection, the predictive part of this, right? And being able to get very much in front of it is what's the power of those big data sets and data lakes.
I'd like to add that I think using integrative questionnaires and integrative to be able to track your woman's answers and women's modalities with whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, whether it's relationship modalities, I think are very important and add easy ability to integrate AI and drive outcomes. And so for all of the platforms that we personally are using integrated questionnaires that women fill out as they enter our platform for each visit, and we're able to track over long periods of time the changes, whether positive or negative, that can then turn into these solutions and create data points later on to improve care overall for all women.
And that's going to be the big challenge, isn't it? Is sourcing this data and having proper research and analysis so that we have these data sets to be working from, because we have so much to access at home now, and so many opportunities to kind of track our cycles and track our well-being, but without the big data sets in order to map those against, then it really, what are we even tracking for except for our own kind of personal information? So we just have a couple of minutes left. I just want to ask everyone, first of all, thank you so much for your fantastic talks and for such an insightful panel. Are there any closing remarks that you would like to make before we move on to our second section? Kylie, I can see that your mic is off. Are you keen?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, I've loved this, and I wish we had more time, especially as a panelist organization, to get together and understand how we can collaborate. I think there's nothing more important than figuring this out, and I know we can't do it alone. We need each other, especially when we're talking about big data sets. It's very important that we build collaboration globally so we can move very quickly. But I'm grateful to you guys for starting this organization and bringing us all to the forefront on it. And I look forward to future collaborations with all of you. Thank you.
Absolutely. And on behalf of FemTech Analytics, I would like to thank everyone, especially Anna, whom I had no idea was pregnant, 8.5 months pregnant. Basically, our objective is to continue this series of, free virtual conferences, as well as to, takes either certain angles of of FemTech sectors and sectors and co-produce analytical reports or collaborate otherwise. But we're delighted that we are starting this movement. Let me just say that, and we look for future events and a number of other ways we can collaborate. And again, it's our first event and the report. We welcome everyone's feedback, questions, thoughts, and that would be greatly appreciated.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Kate, Elan, Astrid, Kylie, and Barbara. You've all been really fantastic, and I'm really excited about our next section. So I would like to invite Tal Katran up to the stage. Tal is a Startups and Accelerators guru. He's founded 14 startup accelerators since 2012. He's considered an expert at building accelerators, hubs, and startup ecosystems, including Eve, which is a FemTech focused one. I think that's the only one, right? You can correct me if I'm wrong. And he's going to be talking to us about what the FemTech opportunity versus challenge is, which is something I'm very excited to hear. So Tal, are you here and are you ready?
Yeah, I'm here. Shalom. Hi. Good evening, everyone. Glad to be here. Thank you for everyone who invited me here, and been listening from the beginning, and it's been interesting. I'm saying this as someone who knows FemTech maybe for the last 3 years or so. My co-founder, she's a doctor. She used to have her own startup. She reached out to me and said, listen, how about we start a FemTech accelerator? And I said, FinTech? She says, no, FemTech. I said, I've never heard. And this is coming from a person who by himself established 16 accelerators. I think I've done every cluster possible, never heard of FemTech. And that is and was and still is a challenge. And this is why I'm here to talk to you. I'm less here to speak to you about the trends because you have heard a lot of trends. And honestly, it doesn't really matter. I'm here to, I don't know, aggravate you a little bit. I'm here to make you move in your chairs and saying, why did they bring this guy? Everything was so nice until he came. And I'm here to ask you, first of all, why is it that there is such a small number of women involved in entrepreneurship all over the world, including here in Israel, the startup nation? And I'm here to, I don't know, not nag you a little bit, push you a little bit and say, I mean, who knows about women better than women? And still, why is it in my hub that half of the startups are actually established and run by men doing FemTech? Not that that is wrong, okay? It is totally fine, but there is a kind of an expectation when I have I'm a female entrepreneur and I have a startup that maybe women angels will invest in me, which never happens. So I'm here can I ask you a few questions and probably not getting any answers because I don't see you. Maybe you can write. By the way, I want to say this is, I think, the first webinar out of the near 100 I've done during COVID last year that I see the motion going. Like you know how to use the chat. The chat is not to ask too many questions. The chat is to introduce yourself, is to say, hey, this is who I am, this is the opportunity I bring, and maybe then I can ask for something in return. This is why you need to have the chat, just to get better introduced. There are over 70, there were 90 people here. So my thing is to say, well, FemTech, when we started, when we engaged 2018, I thought it was really, well, it made sense that it was a great opportunity that we really needed. More than half of the population in the world is women. Women are treated more by men, gynecologists, than women. Women knows best about their own bodies and about the problems. And still I was kind of puzzled. Where are all the women? Where is all the FemTech? And the other thing was, many companies, corporates worldwide said, wow, FemTech is very interesting for us, but none really invested in it. And this is now, I think, I would say maybe in the last year even, maybe COVID did some disruption here. But definitely now, I would like to see the brands or the investors not just saying, yes, we understand FemTech is needed, but actually putting hands into their pockets and investing. Now you saw the numbers. Yes, the numbers are growing, but understand again, you saw the map of the entire world. You saw a lot of US, of course, a lot of UK, but even Israel, which is considered a kind of a startup nation, still numbers are kind of low in way of number of startups that deal with FemTech, as well as the money invested. I don't think I'm here to tell you what are the trends or what are the needs. I think you know them better than me. And for sure, there was done here a lot of research. I can tell you the information I have learned today is priceless. It's priceless in way of showing evidence, showing proof of what we think we know. But in the end, the fact that there is a research and there is a need still needs to be supported by the ecosystem, by startups. And startups, by the way, are first of all people. Before there is technology. Without the people, there is no technology. So it is about the people. And it's about the people working very hard. Everything in startup life is difficult. Everything. You don't have a dime for your name. Everyone is smarter than you. You probably think, well, that has been already solved. Why should I do it again? Or where do I check? Who do I talk to? A lot of questions. Okay, for this, you maybe have accelerators, you have people to speak to. Definitely a lot of people here. I mean, the amount of knowledge and help and support that is in this group right now is I think is endless, and you should definitely use it. So when we want to not just speak about FemTech, but really engage, we need people, and we need, I'm not saying we need women to do that, but definitely FemTech for me was a kind of an amazing opportunity how to get women more involved as leaders, as founders of the startups, coming with the knowledge. So this is my belief. First of all, and foremost, the opportunity FemTech presents is not a safe ground, but a very inviting kind of ecosystem, atmosphere, technology cluster for women to get involved in entrepreneurship. Because again, what I see is a big difficulty for women to get involved out of, I don't know, maybe fear of taking risks. There's a lot of risk. 96% of startups shut down first year of operation. That's not my number. It's like all over the world number. So it is kind of a failure about to happen. And to step into this is troubling. I think more for women than men. I mean, men, you know, men, if they have 20% of something, they will get the rest of the 80 along the way. Women kind of needed more safe, like we need to know we are 100%, and then maybe you go 110, 20, and 30. It's a lot of risk. But I think, again, the fact that women know FemTech, know the problems, know, it's not about knowing the opportunity, it's about knowing the needs. And we know every startup needs to start with a need and a solution, and this is kind of a safe ground. So either you go by yourself or you go with a partner, it doesn't matter. Again, you don't need the trends, you know it. you know it. Again, a lot of information was shared here. So what I would like to see more is, first of all, which I call an opportunity for women to get more engaged versus the challenge. And in my eyes, still raising funds for FemTech remains a challenge. It remains a challenge, and I agree, it doesn't need to have any connection to who the investor is, but as also shown, and we all know it, most investors are men, and when you're asking a man to invest in something which he has not even a first clue about it, it is challenging. This is why we need, I think, more VCs to invest in it. They have kind of a different look, not wait for angel investors to step in this. So again, opportunity and challenge, I think, are quite clear. Now the opportunity, I mean, going forward, how do we do it? And I think, again, it should be shared by everyone. If this group, if what we have right now becomes really a group and you can ask and get, I mean, questions and answers, it's amazing. Because I think you have like professionals on everything almost possible to get an answer on how to start, where to look, who to talk to, how to take first step, how to do it, and then maybe how to grow and how to get invested. I think right now the world is kind of speaks more about FemTech. I think it needs to speak much more about FemTech the same way we speak about cyber. So why cyber is so interesting? Why FemTech is not as that interesting? And the way it will happen is the more of us here dip our hands into this opportunity and start making small steps towards growing it. And for this, again, you have accelerators. In Eve FemTech Hub, it is very clustered, meaning the opportunity is clear. This is what we do. And as I said, we have male and female entrepreneurs all doing women's digital health. We had a great support from Ferring Pharmaceutical that I think identified kind of early this opportunity and supported the hub during 2019 and 2020, which was amazing. And then little by little, another conference and another conference. And again, there was, and there is now more interest, more opportunities. I see Anna, that's my cue that I need to tune it down a little bit. We're about to end. So I will end here. I really want to offer you my help. What I know to do is to grow startups. I've been doing it for near 10 years, almost from the beginning of time here in Israel. More than 1,000 startups mature my programs here in Israel, as well as in several countries worldwide. I'm here to offer my support, my help, my mentorship if you need it. I shared my details, and please do. And again, I want to bless you all for being here today. I think it's been, so far, it's been amazing. I know I'm the highlight, but until now it was very nice, and I will stay to the end to answer your questions. Thank you.
Fantastic, Tal. Thank you so much. And that was going to be my first question, was can you stay till the end? Because I can already see the Q&A is popping off with questions for you.
It's almost midnight, but you know, I'm here, and you don't get to be in such an amazing conference every day. So I'm here.
That's very kind. And I know Karen, it's also very late for Karen as well. So I'd like to welcome Karen Heng. She's the founder of Della HQ. It's a place for FemTech information in Southeast Asia, the Middle East and Africa. She's about to launch the first digital health platform in Dubai. And she's speaking with us about innovation and trends in FemTech in Southeast Asia. So thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you. My name is Karen. I'm the founder of the Dell HQ. We are a FemTech online publication that covers FemTech happenings from all over the world with a particular focus on Asia. And firstly, I would like to thank FemTech Analytics for inviting me here today. So what you see here, actually, I picked this headline for myself, Innovations and Trends in FemTech in Southeast Asia, which, you know, when I started going down into it, seemed sort of broad. I'm going to try and make sense of it all. So what you see here is a FemTech market map of Southeast Asia that was published by Formata in May this year. There are 41 FemTech companies in Southeast Asia, of which 24 are headquartered in Singapore, with the rest around Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam, and Indonesia. So there's the thing about Southeast Asia is made up of many different countries, obviously, and each come with their own unique set of quirks. I think also one of the reasons why there are more companies set up in Singapore is because it's more often than not seen as the sort of launch pad to the region. There is ease of doing business, there's clarity on regulations and processes, and I think it allows a company and brand to kind of establish itself in a shorter time before they expand to neighboring countries. So with this map, I think you can see, and I would like to say also that it sort of is difficult to kind of paint a broad stroke across innovations and trends and similarities in the region. And I think in the next slide, I'm going to give an example to why that might be the case. So in Singapore, where I'm from, they're, skyscraper countries. We're trying to build like sustainable, futuristic neighborhood pods. And there's always a race to be the biggest, the best, the most high tech, the most dazzling. We have home testing kits in FemTech. We've got telehealth, we have personalized supplements. And I feel like sort of also kind of luxury that we have is that there is a greater sort of social movement move that COVID-19 has sort of awarded us the luxury to kind of look inwards and be more aware of our intimate self and wellness. So in Singapore itself, unlike other Southeast Asian countries, there are more self-pleasure and sexual wellness and mental health companies that have come up over the last year. And when you look at the other extreme of a country in Southeast Asia, perhaps in Indonesia, where in 2019, the country reported 20.2 deaths per 1,000 live births, the FemTech scene doesn't look quite the same as it does in Singapore. There are maybe 3 FemTech players there. One of the bigger ones is called Sehati. They have developed a low-cost, easily transportable fetal monitoring tool that can be easily used by midwives in the rural areas to transmit maternal data using their smartphones to the clinics in the bigger cities. And the difference is just that that's maybe something we might not need in Singapore, and that's a different sort of innovation and trend. And then we move to Thailand, where, I think if we have enough time, I'm going to tell you a little story. So this is Cups of Joy. It's a menstrual cup brand from Thailand. The founder, one day, she was in the post office. At the end of every year, the Thai Postal Service, they arrange a donation drive from the urban cities to the rural areas. So she was there one day donating the regular books and shoes and clothes. And she met a lady there who had a huge box of sanitary pads. And they stopped to chat because she was curious. And she was asking the lady, why are you sending all these things? And the lady explained that the girls need them and they don't easily get access to them. And they miss school because they're on their periods because of tradition or cultural reasons. So, Cups of Joy, Teresa, she was shocked. She kind of stopped in her tracks. She had never thought about that because we're sort of somehow always presented with the idea that kids in rural areas, they need shoes and they need books and they need clothes. And yes, they do. We're not denying that. But we rarely see that these girls, they don't go to school and they miss school because of their periods. So I'm not sure if any of you have ever watched a Thai commercial, but I sort of somehow always picture this soft lighting in the post office where she gets this idea and this is somehow the business that she's meant to do because she actually had been searching for a sustainable business for a while. But it was there on this day that this business was born, and Cups of Joy is the first Thai-made menstrual cup brand that donates one to the less fortunate when one is bought. And you can see that in this case, the product is not new. The innovation is not the most progressive tech, and it's simple. It's not groundbreaking in terms of a product, but in terms of creating conversation and creating change and allowing urban Thais to see the perils of the rural Thais, I think it is innovative and it is powerful. And most times I feel it's in Southeast Asia, in many of the Southeast Asian countries, it's grassroots efforts that somehow have the most power, right? In Malaysia, there are social media accounts run by sexual health advocates, sexual education educators, intimacy coaches, doulas, midwives. And I think a lot of these play really as much as an important role as big femtech companies do. So one of a very popular Malaysian sexual wellness advocate, Jasmine King, she's regularly invited by brands and companies to do sexual wellness panels for schools, even for children. She regularly moderates panels. She was invited also by Carex. I think it is one of the largest, if not the largest, condom maker in the world to do collaboration posts to deliver proper sex education. So, you know, in a place like Malaysia, it's maybe not about creating the most high-tech product. It's also about leveraging social media to create the most impact. Similarly, in Indonesia, where there is a super high smartphone penetration rate, 2 young Indonesian women have created a platform called Nona to educate women on the proper menstrual education, to teach them about their bodies. So, you know, different countries are seeing different types of innovations because I think they have different needs. Having said that, it is also possible, I think, to find the same pain points in different countries where you can sort of carry your brand across country borders. One of the examples is Yin. So they are a digital prescription and subscription birth control pill service. In Singapore and in Malaysia, you have to see a doctor to get birth control pills. And, you know, I've been there. It's, you go there, you sit in the clinic, people are watching you and they're staring and you're like, it's an uncomfortable experience. So this service really makes it like you don't need to go to the doctor at all, and really like removes a pain point for a lot of women who sometimes go for birth control pills, not just for contraception reasons. So yes, I think we're all in different stages of innovations in the different countries in Southeast Asia, but I think the common thing is that we're all making noise and we're all talking, and you know, all that chit chat is loud, and one day they're all going to hear us. And I think it allows FemTech to shine the light on women's issues, inequalities, and it allows us to sort of further close the gap, right? And maybe one day when we're loud enough and they can hear us, that FemTech can secure a place in the regular business landscape and become an investment category that is not filed under vices. So in conclusion, I think, yes, there might only be 41 companies for now in Southeast Asia, and it is a growing, super young industry. But that only means that there's so much more opportunity for growth. And I think one thing to note is that when we try to achieve that growth, we have to look at what that growth is and what it means for the city that we're trying to do the business in, and look at innovations and trends and how we view it. And are we innovating and creating just for the sake of chasing a VC investment fund? Or, you know, I think that's sometimes the case in a very startup hungry city like Singapore. Or are we really using innovation, be it simple, to really try to better the lived experiences of women in the region? Thank you.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much, Karen. I've been frantically scribbling notes as well to ask you in the Q&A. So I really hope you're able to stick around. I know it's late where you are. So next up, we have Dr. Simona Rogero. Simona is a specialist in metabolism, newborn screening, cardiovascular and kidney diseases, and more. There were actually many more specialisms I could have gone into. She's going to be speaking with us about innovation and trends in women's iron deficiency. And so I really look forward to hearing from you. Simona, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Happy to meet you. I'm thrilled to be part of this incredible FemTech conference. Thank you all for your valuable input. I'm learning a lot today. My name is Simona. I'm a physician and an entrepreneur. I'm based in Milan, in Italy. I support several startups and I'm founder of Fidelio. Our goal is to bring to the market a digital diagnostic solution to address women's iron deficiency, a huge problem, easy to treat, yet underdiagnosed. Why is it so important to drive innovation in this area? Many women suffer from a long-term iron deficiency anemia and are seeking appropriate care and some helpful responses to their condition. I will share my insights and personal experience about the need for innovation in the field of iron deficiency and iron deficiency anemia. Women's iron deficiency is a huge global problem. We women, we know very well this problem. Iron deficiency is widespread in both developing and industrialized countries. It's a macronutrient deficiency, yes, but it would be a big mistake to believe that it's a minor problem. The iron deficiency treatment is easy, it's effective, but many women live with the debilitating symptoms of the iron deficiency and are exposed to anemia and complications. 6-8 months is the average time for European women with iron deficiency to get a confirmed diagnosis. This information comes from a recent survey on a Swiss women population, and similar and even worse data have been collected from other European countries. This gap of time without a diagnosis causes most live with symptoms that could be avoided, causes cost per every undiagnosed woman, and puts at risk of major complications and recurrences due to the lack of regular monitoring. Iron deficiency has an impact on the physical performance, work productivity, and cognitive function. It can cause attention difficulties, fatigue, and headaches. It's one of the main causes of disability in women population. Women can suffer iron deficiency at various times of their lives. 90% of pregnant women have iron deficiency, and low iron levels have a negative impact on mother and baby. These numbers tell us that conventional health organizations and tools are not enough to bring appropriate care for women with iron deficiency. There is a great room for innovative tools to screen and monitor iron deficiency, both in developed countries, both in developing ones. Point-of-care testing devices are, as you know, growing in the FemTech area. It's a fast-growing market that it's solving some limitations of conventional healthcare organizations. The technologies for point-of-care testing devices are improving. This is good news. The COVID-19 pandemic has given a push to new point-of-care testing development. Women's health is a good sector to address a new point-of-care testing solution because the barriers to entry to the market can be lower than in other sectors. Reference doctors as gynecologists are used to point-of-care testing in their practices. There are several examples of point-of-care testing like pregnancy test, urine dipsticks, infectious disease test that are used in gynecologist practice or that they recommend to their patients. Women care about their health and accept to perform point-of-care test. A test clinically actionable, easy to be interpreted and to be used for a therapy prescription, typically has easier adoption. Point-of-care testing solutions for iron deficiency make sense to reach the right diagnosis in a timely manner and provide regular monitoring. But the market today needs new tools able to give a reliable diagnosis of iron deficiency. Iron deficiency is a complex disease with and without anemia. So the market needs new tools to give a reliable diagnosis in all cases and situations. Current devices have limited clinical benefits and reliability. Fidelio aims to bring to the market a digital diagnostic solution for out-of-the-lab screening and monitoring, entirely focused on iron deficiency and reliable from a clinical point of view. Fidelio aims to test at the point of care a clinically reliable multi-markers iron panel combined with a digital platform customized on women's needs. I will be happy to share you more information about our solution at your request. The time is today not too much. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Simona. And that was very relevant for me as well, given that I'm 8 months pregnant. So it was very, very helpful. Next up, we have Daniela Schardinger. Daniela is the VP of Marketing and Medical Affairs at Ocon Healthcare. She has over 10 years experience in marketing, sales, and business development within the healthcare and legal industry and serves as an advisor on the FemTech Lab Accelerator. She will be talking to us today about the novel or smart delivery technology that finally fits women's anatomy. So welcome, Daniela.
Thank you, Anna, and thanks everyone for sharing these great innovations with us today and all these insights. I've written down a lot of notes already. I will talk a little bit more today with you about novel smart drug delivery technology that finally fits the women's anatomy. Before I do that, I would like to take you on a journey inside the uterus with me. We're talking today about new horizons, and Ocon is taking an innovative approach to women's health through the uterus, where we spend most of our day actually. We're researching the uterine cavity. We're finding solutions to treat from inside the uterus various diseases that we believe where the uterus is key to diagnostics and also treatment solutions. But the question is, what do we really know about the uterus, and how much research is there available about the uterine cavity today? We see there's a massive lack of research and an information gap. It starts that the majority of gynecologists and healthcare professionals today still uses two-dimensional ultrasound in their daily practice as state of the art. Three-dimensional ultrasound is actually available since 1987, yet the majority of OBGYNs don't revert to it. And there is actually territories where OBGYNs don't perform ultrasound imaging of the uterus at all. So you can imagine there is certain diseases and issues that go undetected for a long time. On top of that, the technology that is introduced into the uterus today, called intrauterine devices that deliver drugs or substances into the uterus, are totally outdated. The state-of-the-art intrauterine devices have been invented in the 60s. And these are the devices we're still majorly using today. There hasn't been any innovation, and we're actually relying on technology that was introduced back when there was no three-dimensional ultrasound imaging even available. So you can imagine we have much better and more modern technology at our hands today. On top of that, size does matter, and there's a lot of misinformation still out there on how big the uterine cavity actually is. not only amongst women, but also amongst healthcare professionals. The uterine cavity in width is actually only 2.4 centimeters throughout different age groups. So it doesn't matter if it's a 15-year-old woman or a woman going into menopause, the average size is the size of a small strawberry. If we take the traditional devices available today that show a width of over 3 centimeters with their arms and put those in an average size uterus, you can imagine there will be all sorts of issues and side effects related to these devices that are just too big for the uterus. Some of these drawbacks and issues are malposition. That's when an intrauterine device shifts or turns inside the uterine cavity. 75% of women with such malpositioned IUDs actually complain about either pain or bleeding. The second issue is these devices are too big and rigid. You can see these arms need space to unfold inside the cavity. These are blind procedures. So there are perforations occurring where the device actually is put through the uterine wall. If this goes undetected, it can have serious health issues. It will need surgery. So this is not only a health concern, but also a cost concern. We at OCON have looked at all these drawbacks these IUDs show today, and have actually looked on how we can design a product that is shaped for the female anatomy and for a uterus and for what we know of the uterus today. We know the uterine cavity is a 3-dimensional cavity with a space, and we believe a ball-shaped 3-dimensional intrauterine device that's high-tech, that's flexible and adjusting to the contractions of the uterine cavity is a much, much better carrier and a much more modern carrier that's better tolerated for any drug or substance that can be introduced into the uterine cavity. It actually has a built-in safety mechanism. You can see when it is introduced, it turns away from the uterine wall, protecting the wall, leading to less issues with perforation. It has the thinnest insertion tube to also allow for a less painful insertion procedure. And finally, adapts to the shape and size of the uterine cavity. Also, it doesn't matter if it shifts and turns inside the cavity, it will stay a ball no matter which way it turns. So we are actually looking at the uterine cavity in new perspectives by putting a symmetrical spherical carrier in the uterine cavity to deliver various drugs. Women have to suffer enough throughout their whole life. It starts with the first menstruation, premenstrual syndrome, heavy periods, painful periods, fibroids, myomas. And throughout the whole life, women still have to carry the burden of family planning and contraception. Women are suffering. Abnormal uterine bleeding is the 4th most common reason for OBGYN visits. Over 40% of women suffer from depression due to heavy periods. Over 70% of women have uterine fibroids by the age of 50. Colored women are actually twice as likely to develop a uterine fibroid, and women still carry the burden of family planning today. We say it's enough, women, you need to stop siding with side effects. Over 20% of women discontinue their contraceptive due to side effects, and women actually have a 1.7-fold greater risk of developing adverse reactions to treatments compared to men. And these systemic side effects from taking pills or procedure complications include headaches, migraines, fatigue, depression, nausea, venothrombotic events, organ failure, uterine adhesions, and even death. So we at Ocon are really committed to taking away these pain points and these side effects as much as we can. We are over 85% women, so we develop our products for women, by women, and we introduce finally solutions that are fit for the women's anatomy. You can see here our three-dimensional ball-shaped platform, and you can put any drug or substance on it for various indications. We have an hormone-free contraception, an intrauterine device that's already marketed, but we're also researching and developing products for heavy and abnormal uterine bleeding, uterine fibroids, cancer and endometriosis, hormonal therapies, menopause, and the list goes on. We are hoping that eventually we'll be able to put a little chip on our three-dimensional platform to monitor various conditions. Microbiomes inside the uterus is huge now. So we want to really be side by side with the women throughout their life stages and have a true platform technology that is market validated in over 110,000 users globally, in already 30 countries, with reported high quality of life. And we're taking away the systemic side effects women have to suffer from taking pills by actually introducing these drugs to the target tissue through the uterus. We're addressing a global yearly market of over $20 billion. Our intrauterine ball technology is already impacting women's quality of life. We see 20% less malposition side effects with our ballerine. So we're taking away pain and bleeding from women. Over 90% less ectopic pregnancies, which can have a serious health implication for women. Over 40% less perforations with our ballerine, non-hormonal contraceptive. And with our follow-on product, which is currently in phase 2 clinical studies, the IUB Seed, a spherical endometrial ablation device, which is indicated for abnormal and heavy menstruation, we already see over 80% reduction in bleeding. And we're taking away pain with Ocon's platform. No to mild pain scores are reported. So to conclude my presentation, we at Ocon are committed to innovating for women, putting women at the core of our product design, and improving and impacting women's quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What a breath of fresh air to women across the world. I mean, if you've ever had an IUD, that would be such a brilliant and positive thing to hear. Thank you so much, Daniela. And I do hope this has created an opportunity as well for Ocon and Aspira to talk and figure out ways to help support women gynecologically. So next up, we have Nicholas Leliot. He's the founder of Tech Forever, the Chief Innovation Officer at Groupe Mutuelle, and he will be speaking to us today about the opportunity for co-development and data federation in FemTech. Welcome, Nicholas.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, everyone. It was super interesting, all this session. I think that I'm the last to say it today, but hopefully we will. You will find a big interest in what I will show you today. So yeah, let me talk to you about Tech Forever. Tech Forever is a FemTech accelerator that has been created in 2021 in Switzerland. Switzerland just to position Switzerland, you know where is Switzerland, but position Switzerland on the health tech market. 51% of the GDP from Switzerland is coming from health tech, or pharma, or medtech, or whatever. So it was quite natural for us to develop this kind of platform. And as a Chief Innovation Officer of one of the leaders of health insurance in Switzerland, for us it was really critical to address the biggest part of the population, which is women, if we want to fix some problems in the world, in Switzerland, but also in the world, in terms of health. So what we did is to go to one of the best innovation park in Switzerland, which is belonging to the EPFL. So EPFL is one of the leading universities in the world. I think they have something more than 11,000 students on their campus, and they focus on science and technology. And we started to open this co-creation platform with them, with a focus to grow the FemTech startups, not only in Switzerland, you will see the figures, but also in the rest of the world, and to bring the startups in front of the corporates. So the corporates could be the large Swiss companies that you know, of course, like Novartis, Roche, and the others, or they could be pain point owners or holders, companies who have problems on the market and they want to fix the problems of the pregnancy, of menopause, and everything. And all this in the pure purpose of women's health sake. So we don't as an accelerator or innovation accelerator platform, we don't take equity, so it's totally equity free. We bring the complementary resources from the health insurance in Switzerland, plus the best of the expertise of innovation, the innovation park. And once again, the goal is really to bring the corporate and the startup in a kind of collaboration. And I will talk to you about this, and it's probably an opportunity for many of you. And as we are a relatively small country, but very international country, we started from the beginning creating some partnership with some other key players in the FemTech industry over the world. I will illustrate that. So our goals is to raise awareness about FemTech, to bring concrete solutions to the industry, and to foster and engage community over the coming years. So when we launched the call for application, it was in March this year. So we received 110 applications, and we kept all these applications. So the applications were coming from all over the world, and 65% of the applicants were women leaders, which is pretty good figures. As you know, that's usually they only represent 10% of the startup founders. So as we are in a very inclusive approach, we kept all the startups we applied, and we only split the startups into 3 categories. There is one for the early stage, another one for the growth stage, and the rest which is belonging to the community. Why did we split these startups into 3 categories? Because we offer 3 types of services to the 3 startups. And I will describe that in the next slide. The selection that we made, I mean, or the selection, the cohort that we have today is made of 36% of Swiss startups, but we have 46% of the startups which are coming from the rest of Europe, and we have 5 startups coming from the rest of the world, in the US, Singapore, and Israel. So that's the situation. We have brought to us key names, and it's growing every day, but they are the names which are actively contributing to the ecosystem today. So it's coming from, I mean, large startups like Other Women that most of you probably know. Of course, pharma like Merck, the Biopharm, and some others. MedTech companies like Philips, and we also brought to us some founding partners like Global Brain, which is one of the largest VC in Japan, and they have a branch specialized in FemTech. We brought some other pharma companies like Ferring, and we collaborated with names that we heard before today, like Fermata. Fermata is a FemTech acceleration platform in Japan and in Singapore. We partner with Joyance. Joyance is a VC in Boston focused on FemTech. And we get the support from the Swiss Next network, which is the Swiss technology promotion all over the world. We have a pretty large list of mentors, so all of them are super experienced guys in different companies working for large Swiss names that I mentioned already, like Novartis, Roche, and the others, Ferring and others. Ferring is not Swiss, but they are belonging to the Swiss ecosystem anyway. And as I said before, we split the program into three types of services, which are free services for the startups, of course, because of course the early stage, they don't have the same needs than the growth, and the community is definitely not the same than the rest. So we define these three types of services, and they are running currently as we talk today. It's a 9-month program. There is no choice difficulties to find the duration of the program. We started in May with a roadshow in Japan, and many startups had the opportunity to meet with investors in Japan, namely Global Brain, and to get into one-to-one conversations with these investors. They could also talk with Fermata, and some of the startups from Tech Forever are currently in deal with Fermata for distributions of their solutions on the Japanese market. So that's typically the type of things that we want to achieve. We had in July a Zurich roadshow, which was focused on funding. So how do we get the money to raise the money for the FemTech startups, mostly with Swiss investors in different types of investing. So CVCs from large companies, but also VCs and also angel investing. So it was very interesting. In London, the focus is on co-creation and collaboration. So it will happen in September. And then we'll have the Boston Roadshow, and the Boston Roadshow will be more on the scientific collaboration between all the players in this industry. And we will finish this first year with Lausanne, a demo day in Lausanne, where we are based in, for presenting the full spectrum of the FemTech. And you're of course absolutely welcome to join this event physically or digitally. What I want to focus on today is one of our key activity, which is open to the world. They are called the focus groups, and we started in June by launching 4 focus groups on the 4 key topics that you know very well and that you see on the screen now. These focus groups are led by key experts in each of them for the specific topic, and they are also supported by innovation specialists. The objective is to bring the maximum of people. So if you want to join, reach out to me. You will get the details on this focus group. The objective is to get some co-development solutions, to develop the design thinking approach of solutions, to network, and to grow your business development in Switzerland and globally in Europe. What we'll do, and I will finish with this slide, is what we will do next year is to work on the co-development platform, which is bringing together the data. So it's not impossible to share the data. That's something that a message that I need to convey today. There are technologies like zero knowledge computing technologies, which allow some startups to share data with other startups while keeping the data for themselves. It's totally mature, and there are solutions today for making these kind of things. And what we want to achieve is to demonstrate something in this domain, to develop some kind of FemTech solution, FemTech platform for co-development based on data. So I'm happy to share with you further, and maybe in one-to-one one-to-one discussions. My question is, are we all on the same cause? So if we're on the same cause, let's collaborate and let's keep the conversation rolling. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you so much, for Nicholas. And that was a really fantastic section there. Thank you so much to all of our speakers. This was our section on the synchronicity of innovation and healthcare. And we have some really great questions from the audience today as well. So all of these areas of development have been really, really interesting, and you're bringing solutions to those who need it most. So it's really increasingly clear that this is a global, this is a global issue. And it comes to exactly the same point that we cannot be working in silos, be they country silos or industry silos. We really must be looking at ways that we can collaborate and we can bring the data together and bring our learnings together as well. So with that in mind, it's going to be, I'm going to kick off our Q&A session. So can I ask all of our speakers from this section to put your cameras on? And I have a couple of questions. Actually, there's quite a few questions, Tal, from people in the audience who are interested in hearing a little bit more about your hub. And also, I'd really like to hear from you. What are you looking for in terms of new FemTech startups to apply to your hub?
First of all, if you're interested about my hub, come to Israel. That's the first thing you need to do. By the way, Israel from Sunday is doing third vaccine. So should be safe here. We don't wait for anyone, you know. I mean,
actually, I'm only 1 hour away, I think.
Even better. So, I mean, maybe the fact that the CEO of Pfizer is Jewish helps us. But anyway, I think we bought everything they have and we can sell you guys. But first of all, you need to be here. What I'm looking for, I will tell you, maybe that will be a kind of a downer. I don't look for the technology, I look for the people. I know if I get the right people, oh my God, they can innovate endlessly. I need people that are willing to take risks, because this is what our ecosystem is about. Not just in Israel, the fact that here everything is kind of a sense of urgency. So if we all believe FemTech needs to fly, we need to work faster. I mean, sleep less, work more, you know, all the phrases. Here we do it. I think there is a very vibrant ecosystem that can support. I mean, some countries, you speak startups, they say for them, startup or a homeless person in the corner of is the same, not in Israel. In Israel, you must have a startup. So everything is supported. All the hospitals in Israel, all the HMOs have innovation officers. They all have hubs. They all have accelerators. Wherever you turn left and right, you want a better side, they fight on you. So everything you hear is kind of, in my eyes, from my experience, is ready. And so are investors. And you saw it in the research that Kate shared with us. I mean, Israel, 9 million people. US, 400 something million. And we are in the same slide. Just understand what's going on here. Singapore probably should have been there. Someone kicked them. I don't know what happened. But you're there also. I mean, everyone knows. The fact is, don't look for Israel. Look for this ecosystem. This is where everything happens. You don't need to move too much. Enough with the flying, COVID time. No need to move, digital. Just talk, get on a call. No need to you see my wife, you want to drink coffee? Have a coffee on your side, we can drink. Don't need to meet you, need to work. This is what we're offering here. This is what I'm offering, is to look at the hard pictures, not the chattering, the work. And if we come together and we can give our support to the startups, to you guys, if you want to have a shot, this is what I'm looking for. People. I hope it's clear enough.
Fantastic, Tal. I do think I hear that quite a lot, that investors are keen on the person really, rather than the tech specifically.
But still, I want to note that from beginning of this conference, which was hours ago, I was jumping from another conference in Washington, like virtual, on biometrics. and spoke about FemTech, I got one invitation on LinkedIn. So either I was that boring or intimidating or too aggressive. This is who I am. I can handle the one invite. I already answered. What are you waiting for? This is what I'm speaking about. Wake up, without the word I want to say in the middle. Wake up and get moving. No one will do this for you. No one. If you're expecting here someone to reach out and write a check, forget about it. Ain't gonna happen. It's about you. And if you want to reach out, and the way to reach out is to connect, is to speak, parler, speak. Don't let us guess. That was my spiel. Thank you.
Fantastic. And Nicholas, I've got the same question for you. So Tal is looking for the person. Are you looking for anything specific in your accelerator that the audience members can think about or potentially pitch to you?
Yeah, no, we are pretty open on this. Openness and open innovation is our keyword. So we are not, as I said before, we are not taking equity in any startups. We are here for growing the FemTech domains. The EPFL is a public school, so it's a public campus. So it's not making money out of this. We are international. There most of the nationalities on the campus. So we are definitely looking for startups. We are looking for collaborations on the global scale, co-developments, and also more tactically trying to enter into the Swiss ecosystem of health. That's the key thing. So yeah, that's mostly our purpose.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So I've got a couple of questions for you guys. Karen and Simona specifically, I'm going to target this one to you two. You both mentioned creating solutions for rural and marginalized communities. Quite often these communities are neglected in the FemTech industry. A lot of the innovation happens in the West, mostly by cis white women, so who often create for themselves, right? So what can we do as an industry to ensure that more marginalized and rural groups are being considered in the innovation pipeline? Dr. Simona, do you want to go first, and then we'll go to Karen?
Okay, thanks for this question. Sure, I think that one point is to consider problems that are also spread in developing countries. Women live in developed and in developing countries, so the same problems, health problems, are worldwide. If we have to think about solutions to bring to the market, sure. So generally speaking, the solutions are for developed countries. But if we are thinking about solutions good enough to reach also the developing countries, this could be a good choice, I think. So first point, think about problems that are worldwide. And second point, the solution could be a good solution from a technology point of view, from a price point, good enough for for developed countries and developing ones. Sometimes it's not possible, sometimes it's possible. And from my point of view, and iron deficiency is one of these cases, it's amazing to think about solution good for women worldwide.
You're absolutely right. I mean, the same conditions affect everyone, right? So it shouldn't be so siloed. Karen, I'd love to hear from you.
What was the question again? Sorry.
Sorry. So what can we do to ensure that there is sufficient innovation that's servicing marginalized and rural communities? Because so much of this innovation and the funding is happening in white Western countries, basically. So what can we do in order to ensure that we are being thoughtful about people all over the world and not just those in the countries where the innovation's happening?
Well, I think firstly, it's super difficult. Secondly, I think it's one of those situations where you actually have to go there and speak to people and do really basic things that don't require tech or any sort of like premium innovation. I don't know how to say it, but I mean, what are they really struggling with? Babies are dying, mothers are dying, kids are not going to school, girls are being put out in outhouses because they're bleeding. I think maybe when we talk about not the lowest level of underdeveloped countries, but emerging markets, like FemTech in emerging markets, what does that look like? My husband's from Brazil. We go to Brazil, is an emerging market, like 30%, like a third of the country doesn't have a bank account. Everybody owns a smartphone. It could be something as simple as setting up chats with women groups, like having ambassadors of your brand, of your product, go from house to house to teach women, who then teach other women in their circle. We also do a bit of business in Angola because it's Portuguese speaking as well. And they are one of, I think, maybe the third highest infant mortality rate. And they are just struggling to look for something that will stop their mothers and babies from dying. And sometimes maybe the only way to do that is to physically send a doctor down, you know? They're not looking for, and this isn't to say that all the other companies in the West, like, they don't make sense. It's just, it's so far removed from what the reality is in some of the countries that it just, sometimes you don't even need that kind of first level of innovation. You just need to reach out to the people.
Absolutely, and that puts us straight back into the patient-centered design argument and the argument about having people who are genuinely affected by these issues in the room, who are in the innovation room, who are in the funding room, and deciding where, you know, the money goes, what we're going to create, and it just comes to that diversity of of people in the right room. And Daniela, you've been very thoroughly nodding to this. Do you have some comments about how Ocon's going to deal with this?
I can tell you from our experience, we just went through a major shift in Ocon. We actually changed out our management, half of our board and our team. We were mainly men. The board was majorly men. The team was men. We had a male CEO. And about 2 years ago, we changed it totally around. We're now 85% women. And also our board consists of amazing women and also investors. We have Raya Ventures, who was also mentioned earlier in the statistics, who are mainly women investing in women. And here it also comes back, I have to, nod to what Tal was saying. It's about the people in the company understanding the issues they are developing innovations for. And it's a totally different conversation. And also it's about impact. On the one hand, we're all trying to create impact also for the developing world, which we are also trying to do with our impact investors together, that are funded by big organizations like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. But, you know, when you see the impact you can have on one woman or 2 or 3 women in our phase 2 studies, we had women, 13 women come in with an immense score of heavy menstruation. These had a score of 6 times the menstruation of a normal woman who is menstruating, meaning these women cannot go to work without an extra set of clothes. These women are dripping blood in the shower, throughout the day. This is a major loss of quality of life. And us women, we understand what that means, for our jobs, for our careers, for our, private life, free time. So seeing these women after once and done treatment of our product actually being reduced to what's a third of a normal menstruation with a non-invasive treatment, that's something where everyone in the team is just excited about, and that's where we know who we're working for, who we're all doing this for. As a startup, you're putting in a lot of work, you're putting in long hours, but this is actually what you work for. And I think this is the passion that those teams and also diverse teams need to have, and the companies need to have. I 100% agree.
What a breath of fresh air. Yeah, so often there are the wrong people in the rooms, and there's innovation for innovation's sake. So actually, I want to build on that and ask, this section is about synchronicity between innovation and healthcare. So how is Ocon, or do you have plans for Ocon in ways to integrate and synchronize with consumer services, commercial services? Are there opportunities for collaboration and integration there too?
Definitely. I mean, partnerships are the most important. We are, on the one hand, we want to create, an environment where our product is accessible by the majority of women of all different societies and colors. So this is something where we're working hard on. It's completely different landscapes in Europe as opposed to the US. So we're now trying to find partnerships where we can bring our innovation also to the US. And in terms of our consumers are, the women, but we need healthcare professionals to actually use the product and insert the product. So it's not a direct to consumer product, but we are working with foundations that help us also get to the consumers and educate and make sure they know that these treatment options are available. So this is super important, and we are open to any partnerships and collaborations, also with Big Pharma. We have an amazing platform at our hands, and we can deliver any drug or substance to the uterus. So we are also talking with the big companies to see how can we collaborate to create more solutions for consumers to just make women's lives better.
Such a breath of fresh air. Thank you so much on behalf of all of us. We're very, very grateful. And Nicholas, I've got a question for you as well, as this is all about collaboration and the integration of innovation in healthcare. Can you see or foresee some interesting opportunities for the wellness sector and other consumer-facing products to collaborate with healthcare and with the clinical side?
Yeah, the question is not easy to answer. We have a focus group dedicated to this. So it means that not only one brain can answer this question. In this focus group, we treat about wellness and prevention. It's not by chance, it's coming together. So the focus groups, and I really would like you, all the community, to join this focus group and to join the conversations for co-developing, for thinking, for networking on these topics, and to address this kind of questions. How can we break the walls between wellness and clinical studies, all these kind of things that must be addressed with specialists, with vendors, with large pharma, with medtech companies, with hospitals, with pain point owners or holders, people who are bringing the real problems on the tables that can be addressed with the solution providers. So yeah, thank you for talking about this, Anna. I think the best is really to join these focus groups and I can share the program of the next focus groups. Everything is online on Zoom, so it's pretty easy to join. You will meet with people from all over the world, and most of them are specialists of the specific domain. So if we talk about menopause, it's going to be on menopause. On wellness and prevention, it's a little bit larger, but it's specializing.
Fantastic. Yeah, I can't wait. And it seems like a really sensible solution as well to ensure that you're delivering services and solutions that are genuinely going to help people. If you're crowdsourcing all of this information and all of this feedback, that seems to me like a really sensible solution to innovation, and making sure that we're giving people the devices and the services that they need. So that sounds really smart. Actually, do you know if any other accelerators or investment firms are doing something similar? Because I've not heard of that yet, and it sounds like a really sensible solution.
Yeah, not really the same. There are some FemTech accelerators, and we try to collaborate with them. They have some different positioning, and even the one in Singapore or in Tokyo, the Fermata is more on the how can I say that, on the consumer side of the FemTech definition, while we are at Tech Forever more on the science, coming from the APFL background, of course, science and innovation, but some others are focusing more on the promotion of women as leaders. So there is Women of Wearable, for instance, in London, which is doing a great job, which has a positioning which is very different from Tech Forever. And there are some accelerators specifically for corporates as well. I have one in mind, Israel, which is founded by AXA, insurance company. So they have different approach, and it's good like this. I think different definitions of FemTech, and yeah, we need to be complementary.
Fantastic. And Karen, this one's for you. So what are the big trends happening currently in Southeast Asia that we could all be looking out for, and that you think we should be kind of adopting or paying attention to in the EU and the US?
Oh my God. I feel like we actually are following the EU and the US. Wow, I have to think about this one.
Sorry, I've put you on the spot there.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I was just looking at what was new in Singapore, but it seems like they all exist in the US and Europe. So recently we have more personalized supplements, which I'm sure came from the US. We do home hormonal testing. We just had our first menopause sort of community app, which is big in the UK. So I don't know yet right now if anything goes the other side. What is common in Southeast Asia is the making of reusable menstrual pads by women in rural communities. So they employ women in the village to do that and then give them jobs, which, I don't know if that would ever make it to the West in that sense, but that helps in Southeast Asia. Perhaps, yeah. And I don't know, to be honest.
And I think that probably comes to as well the comment that you made just at the end of your talk, which was that quite often there are innovations that are being created for the investor really rather than for the consumer. And so perhaps it's an issue of not having the investors and the accelerators that are willing to really take those risks and are just kind of going for the safe options by looking at what's already being successful in the EU and the US.
I think, sorry, just to add on before I forget, I think it was only last week that the national newspaper featured 7 FemTech companies for the first time and identified them as sort of investment categories. I think Nicholas would know about this. He works pretty closely with Fermata Japan and Singapore. So actually Fermata Japan going into Singapore was a pretty big deal. I think it was something where they saw that the industry could grow in the Southeast Asia region, because I mean, Fermata Japan works with regulators. They change regulations in the Japanese government, so they're big in Asia.
Yeah, that's a really interesting opportunity, and it shows that FemTech is now becoming a buzzword there too, which is really important, and that's basically what we need to see. But yeah, maybe there's some opportunities there to create some more Southeast Asian focused solutions and businesses for that market.
Yeah,
so
I mean, we have TCM patches, TCM menstrual patches, and TCM supplements. If you believe in the power of alternative Chinese medicine.
I don't know what that means. What are TCM patches?
Traditional Chinese medicine. When you get PMS, so they have patches. We have like little drinks, supplements, herbs. So that might be something.
Anna, can I suggest something? It seems that we are all so happy here about ourselves. We can really sum up and say it was amazing, we're the best, but we're not, okay? So please, let's tune it down back to reality. How about, because Kate is here, and Kate seems to be looking for what else can we do here? And I think that if we will have a panel where we're sitting on the panel and letting the startups or the entrepreneurs or the ones who want to have a shot tell us, share with us the difficulties, the hardships, what's not going right for them. It will be super productive, one. Second, there is a big gap between what startups think how to engage with industry to what the industry expects and can handle when startups approach them. For instance, a startup has no problem telling to the CISO or the IT admin, listen, I just need your database, like it's nothing, just give me your database. It doesn't work this way. There are gaps even in the understanding of the engagement between startups and corporates. So I think that if we want to dive in not too deep, and again, in way of value, like this time, I think there is a way, first of all, to open it for the startups, for the audience, to say what they want. And I think we can cater and service it. I think it will be amazing since we are from all different location, territory, geographically. I think there is a lot in common still because it's a business of people and we're all the same. But we need to not all the time tell them. I think we need to not just read what they write, but let them speak. And I want to say, count me in if you do that. If you don't do that, I will do that. So I'm just offering here in a way of cooperation. Let's do it together. And I think they really need it. They need to sound their voice a little bit, not just to type. So this is just from me.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for this comments, Tal. Again, we produced our first open access analytical report, and I've mentioned that we are soliciting feedback. And I know there were also some questions from the audience as to what does it take to be featured in a database, let's say, for the company. So, database is open access. We welcome the feedback. And also, if someone believes that the company or, influencer or investor, etc., or accelerator, it should be featured there, as long as they qualify, and we have a rather wide definition of FemTech. We are, eager to feature everyone, and again, continue with future reports, either in landscape shape or at a certain angle, as well as continue with our online free conferences on a regular basis.
Clear. I'm just saying, if we wait for the audience, we can tell them, guys, you want this again? Make it happen. It will never happen. Okay, they will still be looking at us or at you and saying, okay, can you please help us? And this is the strong, they need an adult in the room to get things sorted out and then only engage. Once you let them have the floor, I think it will be an amazing event. Also, this recording is amazing. And again, the opportunity that you're giving should not be taken lightly. It doesn't happen to this fortune doesn't fall to your lap every day. That's what I want to say. Aside from the fact I'm here, of course, which is look at that. Oh my God. No, Nicolas also.
Yes,
Nicolas, we're connected on LinkedIn, but we're not talking. I don't know why.
We are connected from today, no, or connected a few days only, no, or
few days. Yeah, when I send you the invite and you
exactly
generously accepted. You see?
We will definitely
but I'm the older between us, but we should go to a private room now.
We will talk then.
Tal, I think you're absolutely right. We need to be creating more of a two-way dialogue in this field, and we could certainly be taking more of a note from Nicholas and from Tech Forever for creating these opportunities and these ecosystems where people can share their opinions and their feedback. So with that, I want to thank everyone. Thank you, Nicholas, Simona, Daniela, Karen, Tal. It has been a really, really fantastic evening, morning, late night, wherever you are. Have you got any closing remarks? If there's anything you'd just like to leave the audience with now, please do just jump on. Fantastic. All right. Thank you so much. We've had such an amazing and exciting mix of innovators and creators and market leaders and investors today. And I've honestly learned so much. My brain is absolutely buzzing with new ideas and new ways that this industry is going to develop in a really healthy and solution-driven way. So thank you so much, everyone. Certainly the biggest things that I've taken away from today is that FemTech is not immune to the traditional problems of innovation silos. So as we've all been talking about just now, we need to collaborate, we need to co-create, we need to connect. The only way that we can deliver solutions needed is by putting a greater range of faces and voices in the positions of leadership and influence. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more people in these positions and reaching out to marginalized communities as well. I think that's going to be so important. Let's really take this as an opportunity as well, just to put the patient, or as we mentioned earlier, the person at the center of our innovation and our healthcare issues. You know, we can't create these solutions top down. They have to come from those who need it. So I think we've heard that time and time again today as well, that a lot of these businesses and a lot of your innovations are coming from the people. So it's really encouraging to hear, and we need to keep that going, basically. This has been a really fantastic analysis of the FemTech landscape today. As I mentioned before, I'm the co-founder of Ultraviolet Futures, and we just launched our very first trend forecasting report in FemTech. It's called the Future of Cycle Care 2022. So if you were really interested in how the landscape looks today and you'd like to learn more about where we think it's heading in the future, my co-founder has actually just dropped the link in the chat, so you can click the link, or you can email me at anna@ultraviolet.agency if you'd like me to send it to you. And that's where we really look at forecasts for the industry rather than the insights that we've been analysing today. And as Kate mentioned, you can also access the FemTech Analytics report at femtech.health as well, which is open access and interactive. So there's so much data and so much information that you can be accessing today. And if you do have any questions, we will be sharing the recording of this event with everyone who attended and everyone who was unable to attend today. We'll also have links to all the information about all the speakers and myself. So we can all continue to have this conversation, because I think really what we've all come away with is this is just the beginning, and there's still so much that we need to do in order to bring this industry forward and to continue to innovate. So thank you so much, everyone. This has been really fantastic. Thank you, FemTech Analytics, for having me and for allowing me to moderate today. I've had a blast. I hope you all have as well. And hopefully we'll see you at some more of these in the future, and some more opportunities to collaborate as well. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Anna, and all the panelists and speakers and the audience.
Thank you.
And good luck for the baby.
I'm gonna need it, guys. Thank you.
Very much.